I used to work overnight shift for a few years, and I have seen some weird shit. The hotel I work at is a great place. Really well maintained, high occupancy, high rates up until the weekend hits. Friday and Saturday nights are slower, so the rate drop brings in some not so savory folk. The hotel is 100% pet friendly. Mostly we get dogs, cats, birds. Occasionally we'll get snakes, lizards, and a few pot-bellied pigs. Now to the shit show that went down a few nights ago. I come into work around 11 p.m. It was a quiet Saturday night. I plow through the paperwork, finish all my duties for the night, and was kicking it back, watching some movies on my laptop. A guest comes to the desk and asks if we have a room with 2 beds available, the rate, and about our pet policy. I answer their questions and check them in. The guests leave and said they were going bowling and that they would be back. A few hours later, around 2 a.m., they call the front desk and ask for an extra robe and request me to deliver it, saying that they would make it worth my time. I ask the bellman to watch the desk and I go to deliver the robe. I get to their room, knock on their door, and the guest asks me to come back in a few minutes. So I go and smoke a cigarette and come back later. I knock again. They ask me to go away and come back later. I oblige. As I'm walking away, I hear a snorting sound. The sound is horrendous. It sounds like a pot-bellied pig, but somehow worse. I'm walking away thinking, what the hell is going on? My bellman calls me on my walkie-talkie and asks if I called the fire department and an ambulance. I let him know that I didn't and walk back to the room. I drop the robe at the door and knock and let them know that I had an emergency to attend to. The guests fling the door open and frantically ask if I was the fire department. I look down the hall and see the paramedics and firemen racing towards me. I looked into the room and see a woman in nothing but a robe and a red thong, laying motionless on the floor. The woman is grey, with foam coming out of her mouth. The pig noises I heard was from the woman, fighting to breathe. I step inside the room and hold the door for the emergency personnel. They ask the couple inside what happened. The couple respond that what had happened was they met their quote-unquote friend at the bowling alley. They were all celebrating a birthday and had a little bit too much to drink. And the friend got too drunk to drive and they decided to make her stay there just to sleep it off, and she just collapsed. They gave the paramedics her quote-unquote name and as much information as they knew about her. By this time, the sheriffs arrived to escort the medics to the hospital. The sheriffs see the couple's bullshit story and ask the medics to empty the woman's purse. What falls out is a pharmacy of pills and powders along with her ID. The couple fesses up that she was popping pills and drinking heavily the night. The medics cart out the pale woman away, still in the robe and thong, to a hospital. The sheriffs give the guests and myself the information on the woman for my report. The guests stay in the room, watch about $100 worth of adult movies, have a huge breakfast in the morning, and check out late. We charge them for the robe. Before I start this, let me just say that I know how this sounds, and I wouldn't believe it coming from somebody else. I'm a truck driver, and when I haul steel, I would often drive all day and well into the night. I do upwards of 1,000 miles, 19 hours in a day, and at the tail end of those trips were always a little harrowing. When you get within 10 to 20 miles of your destination and precious sleep, you get a sudden burst of energy, just enough so that you know you'll be able to make it without the risk of falling asleep at the wheel. It's a nice feeling of satisfaction, but with it comes a price. Hallucinations. For me at least, the last breath of energy after a long run often brought with it some creepy shit. To make matters worse, places one might deliver sheet metal to tend to be directly inside the butt crack of fucking nowhere. And reaching them involved lots of 2-lane roads through the woods. Combine narrow twisting roads and hallucinations, and just enough energy to be aware of it, you've got what we like to call a situation on your hands. One particular night stands out. 800 or so miles had taken about 17 hours thanks to the hills and back roads I had taken to get there, to as close a place as rural as New Jersey gets, just across the Delaware from Philly. I was coming down from a back-to-back dose of double shots and was about 15 minutes away from the 4 hours of sleep I'd be getting that night. So I was on edge and started to see shit again. My hallucinations weren't really identifiable things like people, or an oasis, or giant stacks of bacon and such, just vague flashes of movement and light. It freaked me out just enough that I usually had one foot on the clutch at all times just in case. I knew it wasn't real, but it still bothered me. On that particular night though, I was driving around a bend when I saw clear as day a woman dressed in white with long black soaking wet hair latching onto her face. I hit the brakes as quickly as I could and she just stood there in the middle of the road. With my light now directly on her, I could see she's holding something that appeared to be a baby wrapped in a swaddle. I opened my door and stuck about half my body out and asked if she was okay, if she needed any help. She didn't say anything though. She just stood there looking down at her baby until she finally looked up, and her eyes looked like there were no eyeballs in there, just sockets of darkness sunk into her grayish looking skin. By the time I blinked and opened my eyes, she was gone. Nowhere to be seen in the stretch of road, and either side were just thick woods and a cliff. She just disappeared, and to avoid sounding insane, I never really told anybody about this. I just marked it off as another hallucination, even though it looked way too real. Last thing I'll mention is that after she left, there was a scream, an ear-piercing scream that made it feel like my eardrums were bleeding. Sometimes late at night, I feel like I can still hear her in the distance. None of my hallucinations even came with sound before. I used to work in this building as staff for a non-profit, and one night, the security guard called out, and I was the only one to take his place. Why this building stayed open until 10 p.m., I don't know, because people went out at 7 p.m. the latest. Anyway, the building was big and old-fashioned, even though the company owned one side. All I had to do was sit at the desk, watch the cameras, and lock up once 10 p.m. came around, and wait for a truck driver to pick up some artwork. So it's almost 10. The truck driver is on his way, and the old elevator starts moving. It's on the 5th floor, and it started coming down. I'm freaked the hell out because no one is on the 5th floor. I saw the last person go home 2 hours ago. So I grab the baton and go upstairs to investigate. Since the elevator is in motion, and I'm scared of it, I take the large staircase. As I'm going straight up to the 2nd floor, I hear footsteps that sound like high heels down the lobby. I rush back downstairs thinking I never locked the front door, but it's not open. The elevator door opened and no one was inside. I thought maybe my boss was messing with me, so I started to call out his name while walking up the stairs. No one was on the 2nd floor, so I continued up the stairs, and I hear the elevator move again. It's on its way to the 5th floor. When I get to the 3rd floor, the creepiest of them all, like seriously, it had those dark wood walls. The elevator stops above, and I hear footsteps. I finally get to the 5th floor and no one is in there, but some creepy statue at the end of the hall. I can't believe I even had the guts to close up the floor and leave. So I get past the 4th floor, and I'm back on the creepy 3rd floor, and I almost shit my pants at the sight of something moving in the corner of my eye. No big deal, probably a roach. Keep going, the truck driver will be here soon. Nope. I look again, and the outline of a skinny kid with messy hair runs by the door of the president's office at the end of the hall. Crap. I didn't turn off the light in that one. Shit. And as I find some massive balls, I pick them up and move towards the president's office, and the elevator starts moving again, and there are footsteps in the staircase at the same damn time. I start to break down and cry right there in the hallway. I have no idea what to do, so I run into the meeting room and cower near the window, because if I see that kid or something else in the building, I am ready to jump. I heard the elevator open on my floor and my name being called out softly. I started screaming, "Leave me the hell alone!" The footsteps are getting closer to the meeting room. The door opens. I don't look because I have my eyes closed, so I grab the button, and as soon as I swing, some force stops it. It's a truck driver. I was so relieved to see him, I just collapsed in his arms, bawled for a good minute. He got me all cleaned up, helped me close up, and gave me a ride home. Right as we got down the street from the building, he turned to me and calmly said, "Oh, you didn't know the place was haunted? Jim, who is my boss, has been talking about Tommy for years." Turns out Tommy was a boy who died of pneumonia in the home in the early 1900s. When I look at one of the historical books we had on the mansion, that skinny kid with shaggy hair was in it.